Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. President Biden and Vice President Harris both travel abroad for the first time since taking office. And with the crisis at the border still active, we're tracking Harris on her first stop in Guatemala. Can an illegal immigrant with temporary protected status apply for a green card? The Supreme Court gives a unanimous decision. The latest pushback against Communist China's overseas influence operations. 2 new Florida laws ramp up efforts to fight foreign infiltration. A mayoral seat in the Democratic stronghold goes red, drawing speculation about a shift in the Hispanic vote. And groups in Normandy hold D-Day commemorations, paying tribute to American soldiers fallen 77 years ago. Vice President Kamala Harris is off on her first trip abroad as VP. Although her airplane had to circle back for an unexpected safety check, she did make it to her first stop in Guatemala. NTD's Steve Lance brings us more.
Vice President Kamala Harris made stops in Guatemala and Mexico during her first international trip as VP. She was tapped by President Biden to be border czar in March. As the crisis on the border mounts, this trip becomes even more significant. In her remarks with Guatemalan President Alejandro Giammattei, Harris said she is optimistic that Guatemalans will find hope at home. She had a clear message to those thinking about entering the United States illegally.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
Harris went on to say the U.S. will continue to enforce its laws and secure the border. She added there are legal ways migration can and should occur. The vice president was in Guatemala today, where she met with the president of the Central American country. They discussed a wide range of issues revolving around the mass migration of Guatemalans to the United States. However, some experts say that the issue of mass migration isn't isolated to any specific country or region.
I hope that your listeners don't get the impression that this is just about Central America when Kamala Harris goes down there and starts to talk to the government of Guatemala and Mexico and starts talking about trying to fix the root causes, because the root causes exist all over the world in 160 countries.
Todd Bensman, Senior National Security Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, emphasized that people from all over the globe are illegally entering the U.S. from the southern border.
Nationalities from places like Pakistan and India, Somalia, all of the countries on the of terrorism concern are showing up at the border. There were 2 Yemenis, we shouldn't forget, earlier this year who were apprehended in Calexico, who were on the FBI's terrorism watch list.
A recent report by the Epoch Times said that illegal entries from Venezuelans is up from 135 people last year to nearly 11,000 this year. That's nearly an 8,000% increase. This evening, Vice President Harris is scheduled to leave Guatemala for Mexico, where tomorrow she will meet with the Mexican president to further discuss border issues. One thing worth noting is that since being tapped to handle the border crisis by President Biden, Vice President Harris has yet to visit the southern border. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Steve Lance, NTD News.
To see the complete interview with Todd Bensman, check out this weekend's program of The Nation Speaks with Cindy Drucare. You can find The Nation Speaks at ntd.com. And in a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court ruled that illegal immigrants who have protected status are not entitled to a green card. This as the nation is overwhelmed by a surge of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border. NTD's Christina Kim has more details.
Jose Santos Sanchez and his wife Sonia Gomez are an El Salvadorian couple living in New Jersey, and they're trying to apply for permanent residency in the U.S. But Sanchez entered the country unlawfully in 1997 and worked in the U.S. without legal authorization. In 2001, the U.S. gave El Salvador the temporary protected status designation after earthquakes hit the country, effectively protecting Sanchez from deportation. So the central question here is, does a temporary protected status enable an illegal immigrant to get a green card? Justice Elena Kagan, one of the court's more liberal justices, wrote the unanimous opinion on Monday, saying no. The U.S. allows foreigners from countries in crisis to remain here for humanitarian reasons, even if they are illegal immigrants. This could be if the country is going through war, an environmental disaster, epidemic, or other conditions. Currently, 12 countries have temporary protected status: Burma, also known as Myanmar, El Salvador, Haiti, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. According to a 9-0 decision from the Supreme Court, that doesn't mean illegal immigrants from these regions are eligible to apply for a green card. That's because they still need to meet the requirement of a lawful entry, which in this case, Sanchez did not fulfill. Kagan wrote that admission and status are separate ideas. In other words, a temporary protected status does not mean admitting him to the country. The decision comes shortly after President Biden reversed the Remain in Mexico policy that would have asylum seekers at the southern border wait in Mexico until their claims are processed. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, who is opposite the couple in the court case, spoke with the Mexican Secretary of Foreign Relations on Friday. The two countries will reportedly cooperate to manage the surge in migration to the U.S. and also address the weapons flow from the U.S. to Mexico. Christina Kim, NTD News.
You may remember the Colonial Pipeline hack ended after the company reportedly paid a $5 million ransom to the hackers. The Department of Justice just announced on Monday that it recovered some of the ransom money. Officials seized 63.7 bitcoins valued at around $2.3 million. This, as the Commerce Secretary said, cyber attacks on American companies are here to stay and, if anything, will intensify. And infrastructure talks continue in Washington, D.C. Senate lead negotiator Shelley Capito offered to add $50 billion to the Republicans' previous counteroffer of more than $900 billion. But that's not enough for the Biden administration. At the same time, Biden is throwing support behind a Democrat lawmaker who's set to mark up a $547 billion infrastructure bill this week that's focused on transportation. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the latest on those negotiations.
Monday, the White House suggested 3 ways to move forward with the infrastructure deal. Find an agreement with lead Senate negotiator Senator Shelley Capito. An agreement can be made between a bipartisan group of senators who have been having talks of their own. Or they can break up the deal into multiple small bills. The first small bill is already in the works. A $547 billion House bill is set to be marked up this Wednesday. It's supposed to cover the transportation aspects of infrastructure like roads, bridges, and public transportation systems.
Quite a bit of overlap with the American Jobs Plan the president proposed. So the time is not unlimited here, as we've stated from the beginning.
Republicans have aimed to limit the infrastructure plan to just these things.
We're not talking about child care. We're not talking about all these different things that have nothing to do with what infrastructure is. Well, I'm fearful that the progressives who have hijacked the Democratic Party are just pulling the country and everything, all legislation so far left, that we're spending trillions of dollars on our great-grandchildren's futures right now.
Senate Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants to pass a bill by July, regardless of the vehicle, hinting at using a budget reconciliation to go it alone. But that seems near impossible because a deal-breaker vote in the Senate, moderate Democrat Joe Manchin is sticking to his guns on bipartisanship.
We need to do something in a bipartisan way. We can't continue on these types of projects because we were able to bring everything to fruition working through a bipartisan way. The Republicans didn't get everything they wanted the last time, as you recall.
On Monday, Psaki said Biden is going to continue to reach out to Senator Manchin on this issue. But for now, Biden will keep trying to take that first route and make a deal with the lead Republican negotiator. He'll meet with Senator Capito again this week ahead of his trip to Europe. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Florida is taking action against hostile regimes that want to infiltrate the state, especially Communist China. Governor Ron DeSantis signed 2 bills today targeting corporate espionage and foreign grants. NTD's Allison Lee has that story.
There is no single entity that exercises a more pervasive, nefarious influence across a wide range of American industries and institutions than the Communist Party of China.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed 2 bills into law on Monday that aim to protect his state from influence from the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, and other hostile foreign regimes. The governor tells NTD something needs to be done because the situation has already got out of hand.
That there's a lot of people in the United States who benefit from the largesse that's provided by the Communist Party of China. I mean, there's a reason why these athletes and these movie studios and big tech will grovel in front of the CCP. They're very critical of things that happen in the U.S., yet they won't be critical when you have slave labor camps and all these other things there that government is overseeing in China. And I think the reason is the financial.
One of the new laws bans trade secret theft and trafficking and increases penalties for such crimes. Those that steal for foreign regimes will face even higher penalties.
And you can't just have a state-controlled company come in from China and think that that's going to happen without there being any accountability or any transparency. And if you look at how they're influencing, universities are one of the top ways they're doing it. Business community, obviously, very much. And then entertainment, media, and big tech.
The other law requires all state agencies and local governments to disclose any foreign gifts or grants of $50,000 or more. The same rule applies to all entities that take grants from or have contracts with Florida state agencies or local governments. And it does more than that.
We don't allow agreements directly from the CCP with some of our universities. So like these Confucius Institutes are gone in Florida. That's not going to happen. And so I think we have the most robust protections against CCP influence that any state's done so far.
The law singles out 7 regimes and will scrutinize them harder. Communist China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, the Maduro regime of Venezuela, and Syria. The Act on Foreign Grants will take effect July 1st, and the Act on Corporate Espionage October 1st. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Author and former Bill Clinton advisor Naomi Wolf is now permanently banned from Twitter. The tech giant says it's because Wolf posted misinformation about vaccines. Wolf is also known for her feminist writings, including her book, The Beauty Myth.
Naomi Wolf's Twitter account shows account suspended. Twitter suspends accounts which violate the Twitter rules. She had 140,000 followers. Wolf has been an outspoken critic of the pandemic lockdowns and COVID vaccines. Twitter says Wolf's account got suspended because she shared misinformation about vaccines. Some Twitter users applaud the move, saying Wolf allegedly published anti-vaccine claims. Others voiced concern over what they said was another attack on free speech by social media companies. In response to the ban, America's Frontline Doctors founder Dr. Simone Gold wrote on Twitter, "A countless string of doctors, scientists, and researchers have been suspended from Twitter." Conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza wrote, "Anyone who loves freedom needs to realize the left is now the enemy of freedom." Wolf served as a political advisor for the campaigns of former President Bill Clinton and former Vice President Al Gore in the 1990s. Lin Lin, NTD News.
Former President Trump and South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem spoke in North Dakota this weekend. Trump offered an endorsement for a Senate seat and shared his ideas on a number of hot topics, including battling critical race theory and holding China accountable for mishandling the virus. NTD's Melina Weiskup brings us key moments from the night.
Anywhere Trump makes an appearance, there is sure to be a huge crowd, both inside and outside. They started lining the streets hours ahead of Trump's visit, and the chairman of the North Carolina GOP says this was the largest turnout they've ever had for a fundraising event. Trump spoke to a large and enthusiastic crowd here in North Carolina at the Republican convention. A couple of key things happened. Laura Trump said that she would not be running for U.S. Senate, but she said although it's not now, she said that doesn't mean she's never going to run. Trump also endorsed Congressman Ted Budd for that Senate seat in 2022.
Would you agree with that, Mark? He will fight like nobody fights.
So let's win this together, and let's get back to making America great again.
Aside from the endorsement, Trump spoke of a number of key issues facing the nation, labeling critical race theory as one of the most dangerous ideologies.
And we should ban it in workplaces, we should ban it in our states, and we should ban it in the federal government, and it should be done immediately.
And Congressman Dan Bishop told us critical race theory is an area where both Republicans and Democrats can come together.
I think you're going to find a lot of agreement among Republicans and Democrats across the ideological spectrum that particular notion, that poisonous ideology, which is essentially state-sanctioned racism, is something that particularly parents of children in schools are going to rise up as Americans all together and say, this has got to go.
As the nation faces such a partisan divide, we wanted to see what else Republicans and Democrats can agree on right now. Congressman Richard Hudson told us battling the pandemic is another point of agreement.
That's an area where Republicans and Democrats can come together, look at what went right but what went wrong during this COVID situation we've just gone through, and let's try to prepare better for the next pandemic.
And he hopes the two parties can come together on combating the threat of the Chinese Communist Party.
China using vaccines as leverage to promote their political agendas. Do you think that's something that Democrats and Republicans can agree on and working against?
I sure hope so. And President Biden, to give him credit, has been saying the right things when it comes to China, but they're certainly testing us right now, and I hope the president's got the resolve.
Trump floated the idea that the U.S. and other countries should demand reparations from China for their mishandling of the CCP virus and the damage it caused.
Within one unified voice that China must pay. They must pay. And as a first step, all countries should collectively cancel any debt they owe to China as a down payment on reparations. The nations of the world should no longer owe money to China. China has destroyed so many nations.
This is the first of many rallies Trump is expected to speak at this summer. He'll also be speaking in Texas at the Conservative Political Action Conference in July. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
In a tight Texas election, a mayoral seat in a Democratic stronghold flipped Republican. The results are drawing a lot of speculation about Hispanic voters. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from the mayor-elect.
Because I thought hopefully McAllen wants somebody that has the knowledge, the experience to lead and take it to a higher level.
Republican Mayor-elect Javier Villalobos won the election by just over 200 votes. It's unusual for the mostly Democrat county.
It's kind of opened up. It's a good thing because competition is always real good.
Census Bureau data says McAllen's population is 85% Hispanic or Latino, and Pew Research Center data shows that most Hispanics have for a long time identified as Democrats. This has led some to speculate that the McAllen election is part of a larger trend, that more Hispanics are going red.
Do you think that your win is part of a larger trend that more and more Hispanics are going Republican?
Well, I don't know whether it's the trend or a complete trend, but I think it played a part. I think people are more open, especially down here in McAllen and South Texas, to say, you know what, I am conservative. There's nothing wrong with being conservative. As a matter of fact, the Hispanic community is pretty conservative, but sometimes I guess because of our parents, our grandparents, they don't really, or it's been accustomed to vote Democrat.
We contacted his opponent for comment, but we haven't heard back. Villalobos says he believes that his voters liked his interest in spending taxpayer money responsibly. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Pennsylvania legislators held a rally outside of the state capitol to support the Second Amendment. They say additional legislation is needed to protect citizens' right to bear arms. NTD's Jason Perry has more from the Keystone State.
It's called the Right to Keep and Bear Arms Rally. Dozens of Pennsylvanians gathered to support Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. Many came with AR-15s slung over their shoulders as a way to express their right to carry. And about 24 government officials attended the rally as well. State Representative Scott Perry said when it comes to gun laws, some of the lawmakers are not following the state's constitution.
In the Pennsylvania Constitution, right, the right to bear arms shall not be questioned. I don't know if it gets any more clear.
Speakers also noted new gun control laws only impact law-abiding citizens and that criminals will continue to get illegal guns illegally. State Representative David Zimmerman explained that a main reason for organizing events like this is people's distrust in the government. Rallies are a platform to voice their concerns.
And a lot of it comes from, from the whole election issue back in November, and then the COVID issue the last year has created so much distrust that's why we're having all these rallies, and it just really gets people fired up and concerned about preserving the Second Amendment.
The Biden administration has signaled that gun control is one of their top priorities. In April, President Biden signed an executive action on gun reform. But State Representative Darrell Metcalf wants to make sure that Pennsylvanians' Second Amendment is not taken away.
Right now, with some of the comments that Biden has made with Pelosi and Schumer controlling the two halls of Congress, I think it's more important than ever for states to push back with bills like my bill, House Bill 357, that we captured that number for a reason.
State Representative Darrell Metcalf talked about his Right to Bear Arms and Protection Act, which is meant to stop the federal government from enforcing additional gun control laws in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is also looking forward to being the next state, possibly, to have constitutional carry. Jason Perry, NTD News, Pennsylvania.
Shares of drug maker Biogen jumped today after the Food and Drug Administration approved its drug that treats Alzheimer's disease. It's the first federally approved Alzheimer's treatment in 18 years. This just days after the FDA also approved a weight loss drug for the first time since 2014. Regulators say Aduhelm will treat more than just the symptoms of Alzheimer's, like insomnia and anxiety, but also deals directly with the underlying disease and the memory loss it causes. The New York Post says doctors don't think it can treat all patients, like those where the disease has advanced too far. But whether the drug is effective has been a point of controversy. Health professionals don't think there's enough proof it works. Advisors to the FDA also don't think the drug deserves such positive marks. The FDA can still take back its approval if clinical trials don't show the drug works. And to many schools, dress codes are no joke. Take this recent example of a student wearing a Mexican flag to his graduation. He left without his diploma. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
This is the moment 18-year-old Ever Lopez, wearing a Mexican flag, is apparently told that he can't wear it. Moments later, the North Carolina student is given his diploma holder, walks off, and raises his fist. Asheboro City Schools says they denied Lopez his diploma after the ceremony because he broke the dress code and detracted from the importance and solemnity of the ceremony, and that it's not about the Mexican flag. According to USA Today, Lopez is the first in his immediate family to graduate from high school. He told them, "I just gotta represent. I did it for my family. They came over here to give me a better future." His mother, Margarita Lopez, called what happened unfair and something for racists. On Monday, she also made a list of demands like,
También queremos una explicación sobre por qué nos tuvieron que escoltar los policías hacia afuera del edificio.
We want an explanation as to how things were handled and even why we were escorted out by police officers.
Changing the dress code was another demand. We don't know if they'll make the change, but Lopez got his diploma in the end. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Health officials in one California county modified their counting methodology for calculating the COVID-19 death toll. The result, a 25% decrease in the number of deaths. Previously, their death toll had counted anyone who died while infected with the virus, including car accident victims.
Close observers noticed a sharp drop in the COVID-19 or CCP virus death toll from the Alameda County dashboard on Friday. It fell about 25% after health officials changed their method for counting total deaths. The dashboard currently shows that 1,268 deaths were caused by the virus. It's 411 fewer than the day before. The county's public health department stated that the update in death toll was to comply with the state's reporting definition. It removed any deaths that were not directly caused by COVID-19. The statement also says that Alameda County previously included anyone who died while infected with the virus. For example, someone who tested positive for the virus before dying in a car accident would still have been counted toward the COVID-19 death toll. County health officials explained that their counting system was implemented early in the pandemic, before the state established guidelines. County Health Officer Dr. Nicholas Moss told the Mercury News that his department was aware of the inconsistency between the county and state's numbers. He said, "We just weren't able to move as quickly on this as we would have liked, but we felt it was important and sometimes better late than never." Alameda County is the 7th most populous county in California with over 1.5 million people. About 6% of the population tested positive for the virus throughout the pandemic.
States are trying their best to get as many people vaccinated as possible, using lotteries, free gifts, and other ways to encourage people. But a new Gallup poll shows that most American adults who are unvaccinated probably won't get the jab. A combined 76% American adults surveyed reported they've been fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, or plan to be vaccinated. But the 24% that don't plan to get vaccinated aren't likely to change much. That's because 78% of the unvaccinated group say they probably won't change their minds. Some say that they want to confirm the new vaccine is safe, or they don't think they'd get seriously sick from the virus. Around 16% of the vaccine reluctant say they don't trust vaccines in general. Other reasons are natural immunity, concerns about the fast timeline of the vaccine, and concerns about allergies. And D-Day commemorations in Normandy were limited due to travel restrictions, but that did not prevent locals and associations from paying tribute to American soldiers fallen 77 years ago. NTD's David Vives met with a student who's crafting bracelets to help people remember.
After 77 years, the Normandy rift near Omaha Beach still shows the scars of World War II. The holes created by shell impacts reflect the harshness of D-Day. Commemoration ceremony at the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial drew hundreds of people, including one U.S. veteran.
We decorate the graves, some graves that were people that I knew, and they paid the ultimate price, and they're laying here on the cemetery now.
The view over Omaha Beach was very moving for this Navy band member who attended the ceremony.
This is my first time here in Normandy, and I believe for our whole group here today, this is our first time here. It is a incredibly humbling experience to be here on this day because we know what happened.
6,000 American soldiers died on D-Day 77 years ago, including 2,500 here on Omaha Beach. Though restrictive measures are keeping U.S. visitors away this year, French associations are honoring the memory of these American soldiers.
Leah Arnoux is one of the Normandy residents who came to honor the American soldiers. For a couple years, she's been creating bracelets with the name of fallen soldiers that she sells at a low price.
We don't want these soldiers to be forgotten, so I wanted to create a bracelet as a way for people to show their gratitude.
Arnoux decided to spend some of her free time out of school to create the Killed in Action bracelets. Helped by her father, they came by many touching stories.
I spend quite some time speaking with people. The most touching stories are from brothers in arms.
Word of her initiative has been spread across the country. She said she has hundreds of requests and can't reply to them all. She says 90% of the bracelets are ordered from French people who want to honor American soldiers, or as gifts to relatives. And some bracelets even cross the ocean and make their way to the United States. David Vives, NTD News, Normandy.
Coming up, U.S. military cargo jet C-17 lands in Taiwan with a bipartisan delegation. Chinese Foreign Ministry steps aside from the plane, merely repeated its usual policy of hoping U.S. stop official contact with Taiwan. Comments say the Communist Party's so-called red line on Taiwan is getting more ambiguous. And a new virus spike is making Chinese officials nervous. They've tested 18 million people in 3 days, and citizens are emptying supermarket shelves. More in just a moment here on NTD News.
Every once in a while, something comes along, so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, coming to the Palace Theater, June 26th and 27th. Tickets at shenyun.com/Stamford.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
A U.S. military jet was in Taiwan this Sunday. It was carrying a U.S. delegation that met with top Taiwanese officials, and the delegation also announced plans to donate CCP virus vaccines to Taiwan. Beijing seems to turn a blind eye to the great giant plane.
A U.S. Air Force cargo plane landed in Taiwan on Sunday. A bipartisan congressional delegation of 3 U.S. senators were on board. They met with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and made an announcement to donate 750,000 doses of CCP virus vaccines. But Chinese state-owned media didn't report on the trip. On Monday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman also sidestepped a question about the military jet and only criticized the U.S. lawmakers for visiting Taiwan. He repeated Beijing's usual diplomatic demands for the U.S., asking it to cut off official contact with Taiwan, but didn't mention the U.S. military jet. Beijing's silence prompted heated discussion on social media, with some mocking the CCP's so-called red line rhetoric. Communist China has never ruled Taiwan, but has long claimed it as part of its territory. Last August, CCP mouthpiece Global Times said if U.S. military jets make takeoffs and landings in Taiwan, they are crossing China's red line. The Chinese foreign minister also warned the U.S. in March to stop, as he called, crossing lines and playing with fire on Taiwan. A Chinese netizen mocks the CCP for not responding to the U.S. military jet's landing in Taiwan, saying if American imperialism dared to cross our bottom line, we will draw in a new bottom line. A Twitter user posting the Chinese Foreign Ministry's reaction and commenting, the U.S. may continue to test the CCP's red line, but their red line is indeterminable. Another netizen asks on Chinese social media Weibo, what did someone say he would do when U.S. military jets land in Taiwan? They are withdrawing their red line again? The comment refers to a Chinese general. He previously boasted that if the U.S. military dares to go to Taiwan, I will take Taiwan down in 3 days. The netizen mocks his comment, saying 2 days left. Despite all the countdowns and mockeries online, Beijing's official reaction has been more restrained.
18 million virus tests in just 3 days. A new virus spike in South China's largest city is making Chinese officials nervous. NTD's Juliet Song has more on that.
The most populous city in South China is battling a surge in CCP virus cases. Official measures include 18 million virus tests over the past 3 days, and calls from authorities urging people not to go anywhere.
The virus pandemic is currently very serious. All residents, please stay at home.
Some districts are put under strict lockdown. A video circulating online shows people guarding in front of residential buildings. It appears that they are preventing residents from going out. All of this is happening in Guangzhou. The city is almost 10 times the size of New York City and is home to 18 million people. And Guangzhou is making headlines in China for its latest spike in virus cases. Of the over 100 cases in the province, over 70% were found in Guangzhou. But a local resident told NTD that he suspects authorities are underreporting the numbers. He heard from a doctor at a local hospital that there could be well over 300 cases, and some asymptomatic cases didn't make it into the official count. What makes the Guangzhou virus spike concerning is that it involves a new highly contagious variant first found in India. And local authorities are making it harder for people to leave the city. Aside from road barriers, public transportation in some areas has been put to a halt. Hundreds of flights have also been cancelled. And if people were to leave Guangzhou, they need to prove that they tested negative for the virus within the past 48 hours. The tightened regulation and strict lockdown appear to have triggered fear of potential food shortage. Videos circulating online show people fighting for food at a supermarket and empty shelves. Areas near Guangzhou are also on alert. Guangzhou sits close to Hong Kong and Macau, and authorities there are now requiring those who arrive from high-risk areas in Guangzhou to undergo a 14-day quarantine. Juliet Son, NTD News.
Microsoft's search engine appears to have blocked the iconic Tank Man image from the Tiananmen massacre. The block happened briefly in the U.S. and other Western countries. This is raising questions and concerns about the degree of influence Beijing has over the company. NTD's Don Ma has more.
Microsoft may have taken a page out of Beijing's censorship playbook on June 4th. The company's search engine Bing.com blocked all image search results of Tankman from showing up. The Tankman is the name for an iconic image associated with the Tiananmen Square massacre on June 4th, 1989. The photo pictures a man trying to block military tanks from driving down the street. The event marked when the Chinese military violently cracked down on unarmed student protesters who gathered to ask for democracy. The British Broadcasting Corporation estimates the death toll at around 10,000. In China, discussions regarding the event are usually censored. This holds especially true on its anniversary. But in an unusual twist, Bing.com also blocked the June 4th searches in the US this year. It was also reported that the image was blocked in other countries as well, including the UK, Canada, Germany, and Singapore. Microsoft responded saying that the situation was due to an accidental human error, but didn't give further details. As of Monday, images of the Tankman are appearing again on Bing. Questions are being raised about whether this incident is related to Bing's Chinese market. Western companies that do business in China are often forced to cater to Chinese regulators in order to access the Chinese market. That includes censoring content that Beijing deems politically sensitive. As per Reuters, many Bing employees are based in China. Around June 4th every year, Chinese authorities intensify censorship on anything connected to the 1989 incident, including seemingly harmless emojis. On June 3rd, the candle emoji disappeared from popular Chinese social media platform Weibo. The reason? Candles are often used in vigils that commemorate the Tiananmen Square incident. Other than the candle, the birthday cake emoji was also removed. This is because the cake had 3 tiny candles placed on top of it. Other internet sites also appear to be targeted by the censorship. In one case, the Weibo account of a popular e-commerce website was blocked. The platform is backed by major Chinese companies like Alibaba and Tencent. The block came after the account made a post asking, "What's the date today?" on June 4th. Don Ma, NTD News.
A U.S. Congressman visited Southern California for an event to commemorate the anniversary of China's Tiananmen Square massacre. He's also proposing to help Chinese people sue the CCP. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more.
Congressman Chris Smith represents New Jersey's 4th Congressional District, but over the weekend, he was far from home. Smith was in the middle of the Mojave Desert in California, attending a pro-democracy event to commemorate the Tiananmen Square massacre in China 32 years ago. He blames the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, for its human rights abuses on the Chinese people.
He commits human rights abuse like few others, the genocide against the Uyghurs, Hong Kong, and the way they have gone after them, the continued persecution of the Falun Gong practitioners, including organ harvesting. These are outrageous, and it's all coming from the top leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, and that means Xi Jinping is directly responsible and ought to be held accountable for his crimes against humanity.
Smith points out that the CCP has grown in power over the years, doing business with and often stealing from the U.S. and other countries.
I believed, and I did it, right after Tiananmen Square, that the world needed to say no trade unless there's significant and substantial progress on human rights issues. Without that, the trading's gone. And unfortunately, the corporations, because they wanted to make a profit quickly and overnight, and had such a short-term view, turned around and traded and passed over these technologies that now will come back to haunt us.
Smith cited Chinese military tech that closely resembles U.S. versions. He always warned of China exporting censorship and propaganda. Smith emphasizes the importance of Chinese people clearly understanding the CCP's crimes.
People need to know that patriotism and respect for their country is not respect for the Chinese Communist Party. Its goals, its methods especially the use of pervasive torture, is antithetical to respect for human life and human rights.
Last April, he introduced legislation H.R. 6524, the Compensation for the Victims of State Misrepresentations to the World Health Organization Act of 2020. If enacted, it would waive the Foreign Immunities Act to allow U.S. citizens to sue the CCP in the U.S. courts for monetary damages. He believes that lawsuits against the CCP will help people understand the CCP's criminal nature and provide some relief for victims and families. Smith reintroduced the bill in March this year, but the House of Representatives has not shown any interest in it yet. Eileen Eng, NTD News, California.
Coming up, Google bows to antitrust pressure for the first time. The tech giant says it will change its global ad practices after France hit it with a huge fine. And Jeff Bezos' rocket company, Blue Origin, gears up for its first manned spaceflight next month. Among the passengers, Bezos himself and his brother Mark. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate copays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I called to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit.
With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Google says it will change its global ad practices after France hit it with a huge fine over its online ad dominance. It's the first time Google has bowed to antitrust pressure. NTD's Patrick Hayden has more on the landmark case.
French regulators have fined Google nearly $270 million. The Wall Street Journal reports the fine is for anti-competitive behavior in the digital advertising space. France's antitrust watchdog says Google abused its market power.
It is a world first for the antitrust world.
News Corp and two other media groups logged a complaint in 2019, which triggered the investigation. The regulator said Monday that as well as the fine, Google has committed to operational changes. This includes making it easier for competitors to use its online ad services. France's antitrust chief said it's the first decision in the world focusing on the complex algorithmic auction processes.
So this is the first decision in the world that really deals with how online advertising works for the display part of online advertising, which are all the different publicity that we see on websites and also on apps that you can use on your smartphone.
The case marks the first time ever that Google has entered into an antitrust settlement. Google did not comment on the case itself, but directed NTD to the changes it's making to its ads platform. Its legal director in France says these platform changes are being tested for broader use, including some on a global scale. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
G7 nations reached a historic deal that's supposed to close loopholes on tax avoidance. But now experts raise concerns. They say Amazon might still be able to escape paying more taxes. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
G7 nations just reached a deal on global tax reform, but Amazon could dodge the bullet. That's unless G7 leaders close a large loophole in the deal. The UK finance minister says the deal is aimed at making the tax system a better fit for the global digital age.
What countries are working towards is figuring out ways to harmonize international tax rules so there aren't pockets of avoidance activity.
And U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said it will end the race to the bottom in corporate taxation and it will level the playing field for business. Currently, big tech companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook can avoid taxes by shifting their profits to subsidiaries in low-tax countries like Luxembourg, Bermuda, and Ireland. Amazon last year experienced record sales in Europe, but it didn't pay corporate taxes to Luxembourg because its headquarters there reported $1.4 billion loss.
These low-tax jurisdictions are being used as a way to finance, in a corporate structure, to finance investments elsewhere.
The historic agreement between the Group of Seven aims to tackle this loophole, but expert analysis shows Amazon might not be captured by the deal. Daniel Bunn, Vice President of Global Projects for the Tax Foundation, says that defining subsets for companies is difficult. That means loopholes are being built into the plan.
Maybe we could sell off part of our business, have lower overall sales. Maybe we could merge with a less profitable business to bring our average total profitability down. It's a really complicated kind of set of issues.
And in Amazon's case, he says the e-commerce giant has a different business model than some of the companies being targeted. Pillar 1 of the G7 deal is designed to make multinational companies pay taxes, not only where they are based, but also where they operate. But it would only apply to companies whose profit margin exceeds 10%. That's a threshold that Amazon does not hit, partly because it reinvests heavily. The second pillar that makes up the plan will set a global minimum corporate tax of at least 15%, operated on a country-by-country basis. Yellen assured Reuters that Facebook and Amazon both would be covered. Sources say that while the G7 sealed an overarching agreement, details still need to be worked out. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk is an avid Twitterer. He's made recent posts about Bitcoin, and some people say that his influence is disrupting the cryptocurrency market. But a new advocate group is trying to take action. NTD's David Lamb has the story.
An advocate group called Stop Elon started their own digital currency about 3 weeks ago. On Sunday, the group held their first protest near a Tesla factory in Northern California.
One of the organizers said they don't have anything specifically against Elon Musk himself. In fact, they think his ideas are innovative. Check out their vehicle of choice, a Model Y. You could say they're Tesla lovers.
I think it's important to say that we don't hate Elon Musk. I think that he's got a great vision for the future. The main issues that we have is that he doesn't seem to care who he hurts.
Hamilton says they currently have over 20,000 coin holders internationally. They hope to gain enough power to have 2/3 of voting power against Tesla stock.
The whole purpose of it essentially is to try to hold Elon Musk accountable for his market manipulation. And later, once we've achieved that goal, to just sort of tackle any and all sort of market manipulation.
Tesla bought $1.5 billion in Bitcoin in February and accepted it as payment in March. However, in a post to Twitter on May 12th, Musk suspended the use of Bitcoin to purchase Tesla vehicles. He wrote, "Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has a promising future, but this cannot come at a great cost to the environment." He's concerned about the environmental impact from maintaining and generating Bitcoin. Bitcoin is generated when high-powered computers compete to solve complex mathematical puzzles. Musk referenced the use of electricity generated from fossil fuels. Bitcoin's value dropped over 7% following this tweet. Tech investor George Haber says Musk is a huge influencer on cryptocurrency.
He is Elon Musk. He is an extraordinary showman.
Haber also adds that China is a key player in cryptocurrency. He believes that China may be trying to destabilize the global economy.
There were and probably continue to be huge farms of mining machines inside China that basically transformed Chinese electricity into US dollars or euros or whatever they pleased.
According to the University of Cambridge, China accounted for 65% of Bitcoin mining in April 2020. David Lam, NTD News, California.
Jeff Bezos' rocket company Blue Origin is gearing up for its first crewed space flight next month. Bezos said on Monday he and his brother Mark will be among the first people to fly on the rocket. Here are the details.
Billionaire Jeff Bezos has taken Amazon.com from a humble online bookseller into the stratosphere. And now that he's retiring from the CEO role, he's ready for his next adventure, a trip that's out of this world. Bezos announced Monday on Instagram that he and his brother will fly on the first crewed space flight from his rocket company Blue Origin, set for takeoff next month. In his post, Bezos wrote, quote, "Ever since I was 5 years old, I've dreamed of traveling to space. On July 20th, I will take that journey with my brother, the greatest adventure with my best friend." Bezos, who will officially end his tenure as Amazon CEO on July 5th, will be joined by the winner of an auction for a seat on Blue Origin's inaugural flight. The final round of that auction will be held in July. Blue Origin says the first round garnered more than 5,200 bidders from 136 countries. The travel plan is to fly more than 60 miles above Earth in a rocket and capsule combo. That's high enough to experience a few minutes of weightlessness and see the planet from afar. Bezos and Blue Origin are already planning to have more crewed flights before the end of this year, but have been tight-lipped on how much a seat on those flights will cost.
A new electric boat created by Swedish company Candela hopes to be the solution to Venice's erosion problem. Here are the details.
Venice has long been in peril from the waves that motorboats create along its canals, eroding the foundations of historic buildings and threatening them with collapse. A new electric boat that flies above the water, presented during the Saloni di Nautica boat show, might be a solution. Erosion, a problem known as moto ondoso, is caused by the wakes of motorboats, water buses, and ferries washing against the walls of buildings along Venice's canals. Swedish company Candela's electric boat, the Candela C7, runs on computer-controlled hydrofoils, or underwater wings, that lift the hull into the air and make it appear to fly over the water. Candela says its technology significantly reduces moto ondoso damage.
So here in Venice you have a huge problem with moto ondoso, which is wake damage. And with our technology, when you fly above the canal level or the water level, you reduce that with 95%.
Candela says the boat travels silently on battery power, using a minimal amount of energy and creating a wake less than 2 inches high, similar to traditional rowing boats.
Before it's been impossible because you need huge batteries to be able to compete with combustion engines. But when you foil it, you drastically drop the consumption. We have the same consumption in 5 knots as you have in 20 knots.
The company is working on a water taxi and a ferry using the same technology. Candela hopes its hydrofoils will become a regular means of traveling in Venice, reducing pollution and erosion.
We have all seen how electrical vehicles have changed the pattern we travel on land. Now it's time to do that on sea.
France plans to send over a smaller-scale replica of the Statue of Liberty in a gesture of friendship between the European nation and the United States. NTD's Andrew Thomas has that story.
New York's Statue of Liberty is about to get some company. A replica will depart from Paris's Musée des Arts et Métiers on Monday and will arrive aboard a boat at Ellis Island on the 4th of July. From there, the reproduction will be transported to the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. as part of a 10-year loan. It's expected to arrive at the capital around July 14th, France's National Day. Museum director Marie-Laure Estingard said the new statue aims to rekindle the longtime friendship between France and the U.S.
You have two sculptures that both symbolize French-American friendship and the liberty of the people. And you see, between 1776 and 1789, there's a 13-year difference. So we really have a common history on the liberty of the people, the desire, the need for liberty, which is very common among the American and French people.
Measuring just under 10 feet, the statue stands around 30 times smaller than the existing piece on Liberty Island. It's one of 11 replicas made from the original cast used as a model by French sculptor Auguste Bertholdi. France sent the first Statue of Liberty to the U.S. in 1886. Towering more than 300 feet, it weighs in at about 275 tons.
Today, I think the Statue of Liberty has an influence in the United States that is clearly evident, but all over the world. You just have to look at all the copies, be it real or not, and all the representations of the Statue of Liberty. There are hundreds and hundreds.
Prominent French figures, including engineer Gustave Eiffel, the man behind the Eiffel Tower, and architect Eugene Viollet-le-Duc, who worked on Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral, were also involved in the statue's construction. New York's Statue of Liberty is one of the country's biggest tourist attractions, welcoming 4 million people annually. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox. We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.